So they have revealed the Arlecchino and Zhongli banners along with their weapons. So let's talk about them because, oh boy. So let's start with the Arlecchino and Zhongli banners first. We'll talk about the characters. Arlecchino is pretty good. Although if you wanted a pyro damage dealer, Malwika is just way stronger and also has some off-field application. And of course, Durin is coming in the next patch as well. So unless you really like Arlecchino, I'd probably hold off on this banner. The 4 stars on here are kind of interesting though. But before we go on to them, let's talk a little bit about Zhongli. Unfortunately, while he has a really tanky shield and he's really nice to just be a very defensive shield bot and make a lot of the game feel very comfy, for the amount of Primogems it can take to get a copy of him, I just don't think he's worth it. And this is coming from someone who used Zhongli for basically every team for several different versions. So yeah, that's kind of unfortunate. He definitely could use several buffs or two, even though he's already had some. But let's talk about these 4 stars, which are kind of interesting, just in case you are wishing on these banners. How good are they for you? If you were wishing, the Arlecchino banner would be generally better because you have both Lan Yan and Rosaria, who pair very well with Arlecchino, whereas the other characters here don't really do much of anything. And with Zhongli, he is kind of the support, and these others don't really help him that much. In fact, Lan Yan, I would say, is the best character here, and she is pretty much strictly better than Zhongli in almost every scenario. She's an Animo character that can hold the Viridescent set, which means she can swirl Pyro, Cryo, Hydro, or Electro and reduce the resistance of those elements, while also being a Catalyst character, meaning she can hold the Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers to give your character a huge attack buff for 10 seconds. And she is a character that provides a shield. So she has the defensive support of someone like Zhongli. She's an attack-based character, so her shield is based on how much attack she has. So if you pair her with Bennett, she gets a ludicrously strong shield. And then she can swirl elements with VV, which is more resistant shred than Zhongli provides, although his is a bit longer. And she can give a huge attack buff, which Zhongli cannot. So in most scenarios, just a single copy of Lan Yan is better than Zhongli. And then we've got Rosaria, who's a good off-field cryo character. Not particularly stellar, but a pretty solid character, kind of similar to Kaya. The unique thing about her elemental burst is that every time it procs, or every time it kind of goes off, it produces a little hit of cryo, and that doesn't have any internal cooldown, so it produces cryo every time it hits, which is pretty useful. So pretty solid 4-star character, nice off-field damage dealer. And then we have Yun Jin, who increases your normal attack damage. I guess she's here kind of for Arlecchino to try and increase her normal attack damage. Yun Jin's not great though, because her ability has it's sort of like Shenhe's ability, where it counts not the number of normal attacks you deal, but the number of normal attacks that hit enemies overall. So if you attacked 3 enemies, you'd use up 3 of Yun Jin's little stacks, even if it was a single normal attack hit. So she's not great because in AoE situations, her buff falls off really fast. She's more designed for like single target normal attack characters, and she as a character is just not very good, period. So this banner is like kind of okay. If you wanted Arlecchino, you definitely want to get some copies of Lan Yan. Maybe C2 Rosaria would be nice, and then you don't really want to see any copies of Yun Jin. She's not really that useful, and just kind of another character that just gets just on your account that you may build one day, but you probably have a lot of other characters you want to build before her. So these character banners, one good 4-star, one pretty okay 4-star, one that you don't really want. In general, I would say unless you just really want these characters, I would just kind of skip them. They're not amazing. And then we get to the weapon banner, which is even more of a skip. We've got the Crimson Moon Semblance, Arlecchino's signature weapon, which is pretty good. We have Vortex Vanquisher, which is really bad. And then we've got a bunch of the Dockhand's Assistant, the HP Sword, and a lot of these other weapons, along with Dragon's Bane and the Sacrificial Fragments. So the Portable Power Saw, the Range Gauge, and the Dockhand's Assistant. They're all relatively similar weapons. The only one here that's kind of useful is the Dockhand's Assistant for being an HP sword. Although if you wanted some HP, you could craft the Nodcry craftable sword. It doesn't give you as much HP as the Dockhand's Assistant, and this is kind of your only 4-star or just non-5-star HP sword option. But at least we have something in a free-to-play craftable, so I don't think I'd waste your Primogems here, because if you get Vortex Vanquisher, it's really not very useful on anyone. It's an attack stat stick that has some potential uses for maybe some builds, but in general for the characters you would run them on, like let's say Yansan or something like that, you just be better off running the Favonius Lance instead. So yeah, this is a huge trap. Arlecchino's signature weapon is pretty good for her, but really not good for anyone else at all because it deals with her Bond of Life and all of that. So that's completely unique to her. So otherwise, it's not that great. It also has the same line, the same stat line as the Jadewing Spear. At level 90, it's 674 attack and 22 crit rate. So if you have a Jadewing Spear or just randomly get one, you could just use that on Arlecchino. And of course, you could always use an R5 White Tassels as well. So the overall value of this weapon banner is quite bad. Which leads me to believe if you did really want to wish, let's say you were someone who just really liked Arlecchino and you just really wanted to get her, there's nothing wrong with that. What would be the best value for your account? It'd probably be wishing on this banner and going for her C1. Number one, her C1 is stronger than her signature weapon in terms of just like a damage for her overall. You could use the White Tassels. Eventually, if you get a Jadewing Spear from the standard banner, or even as like a loss from the weapon banner on some future weapon banner, you could give that to her, which is still really good. And then you could get more copies of Lan Yan, which would be really nice for her too, because Arlecchino can't heal in combat outside of her burst, so having a shield is really nice. And Lan Yan pretty much provides all the things she wants. Red Shred, really strong shield, plus a big attack buff. So yeah, if you did want to wish and you were curious about if you should go for Arlecchino's weapon or for her constellations, her C1 is just stronger, and this is a much better banner and much more valuable for you. This weapon banner is terrible. But for most people, I would say just hold off and save. Don't wish on these banners because we've got Durin and Yehoda coming in the next patch, as well as a bunch of rerun characters that have not been announced yet. So I think those characters might be better for your account than going for any of these banners right now. Again, unless you just really like these characters, then feel free. If you are wishing on them, I hope that you win your 50/50s and you get the characters that you want early, because they're not too great, and just make sure to avoid this weapon banner. This will burn your Primogems really fast.